After 2 years of Zoom calls, Teams chats, and not properly wearing pants, it seems like we are all being shepherded back to the office. Back to sluggish hour-long commutes, crowded offices, and normalcy. Even though the majority of employees oppose returning to the office, companies are insisting on getting people back in as much as possible. We're going to answer why companies are so insistent on forcing return to office and how you can avoid RTO altogether. It seems like April is the month corporate America decided for the third time that everyone is finally to return to working from the office. Companies are throwing parties, catering lunches, and decorating offices, all in an effort to make thousands of people pouring back into the office each day less painful. But employees are not amused. It's almost like back to school all over again, with the thick cloud of dread seeming to hang over everyone as they shuffle in the doors the first day. If workers are so opposed to return to office, why are companies so insistent? Work from home has been going just fine for 2 years, right? Actually, work from home has been going better than expected. Employee productivity is higher, flexibility is far greater, and even if you're just a greedy businessman, corporate profits in the past 4 quarters are at record highs. Everything is just better. Work from home is actually a resounding success, born out of necessity. So why compel a reversion to the old ways of working from an office? Well, there are a few reasons for this. Reason 1 is that companies have collectively invested trillions of dollars into their offices. Deprecating those investments would mean a loss of hundreds of billions of dollars in real estate value. High-tech companies and investment banks alike have spent the past 2 decades investing more and more into their offices as both a measure of prestige and a bid to attract top talent. The status quo, born out of Apple and Google, is that by having cool, aesthetically pleasing, and impressive offices, you will be able to attract the top talent in the workforce and entice them to stay in that office longer. This would logically result in more productivity and happiness from employees. Hence, all of the investment in beautiful, impressive offices over the past 2 decades. Work from home has completely shattered this paradigm. Companies don't want to have all that time and resources invested into these offices just be wasted, so they simply compel their employees to return. Then there's no wasted investment. Reason 2 is related to reason 1. Local and state politicians in big cities depend on return to office for their own political survival. People live in big cities not because they're more beautiful than the countryside, not because cities are cheaper, and not because cities offer a higher quality of life. No. People live in big cities because their jobs are in big cities. If all of a sudden the highest paying, most prestigious jobs could be done from anywhere, not just New York or San Francisco, then big American cities would stop growing. Sure, people would still want to live in these places, but people would not be forced to live in these cities just to get the types of jobs that they want. This means property prices and rents would stop soaring, restaurants wouldn't have as many customers, less new businesses would be founded in cities, and the whole infinite growth game, which American cities rely on to keep the budget balanced, would disappear overnight. All of this is not a good look if you're trying to get reelected. I guarantee you, that a far larger number of people than you realize would prefer to live outside of a top 20 largest city given the choice. In this way, local politicians and company executives have the same incentives to keep you in the office. Reason 3 is a bit of a departure from the hard economics, but is important to touch on nonetheless. Middle management becomes far less necessary in a distributed work environment. America has a middle management problem so large that I plan to devote an entire video to it in the future. But for now, know that working remotely cuts at the heart of the need for a lot of middle management. There are plenty of good managers out there, but I'd argue 10 times more bad managers. If your manager is terrible, you know exactly what I mean. This group of individuals believes that if they can't physically see you working, then you are slacking. Far too many people who are managers either lack managerial and leadership skills altogether, or were never properly trained in how to be an effective leader. Either way, micromanagers can't micromanage if they can't see you. So, you, as the employee, are on the receiving end of strong economic and political forces wanting you back in the office. Is there anything you can do? Well, yes. First off, if you like your company and your manager doesn't completely suck, push your manager for a more specific arrangement that better fits your desires. Talented employees are about as rare as an affordable home these days, so you are likely to have a lot more negotiating power than you realize. If that fails, search for a new job in the startup or medium-sized business space. Small and medium companies are much more likely to be flexible with employees being fully remote, as these companies don't have multi-billion-dollar campuses to fill and would probably appreciate the cost savings of not having to put you in a WeWork or overpriced city office. And there's light at the end of the tunnel for all of us. If enough employees leave companies with strict return to office policies for companies allowing fully remote, eventually everyone will be forced to follow suit and grant more flexibility to all employees. Thanks for watching.